Hello, today we're doing lesson 7.2, we're going to graph exponential decay functions. This is very similar to what we did yesterday, except instead of our graph rising from left to right, it's going to fall from left to right. So an exponential decay function has the same form, y equals a times b to the x, where a is greater than 0, but this time b is between 0 and 1. So basically b is going to be a fraction less than 1. The base of b is called the decay factor. So let's take a look at some information here that we need to know. The graph falls from left to right, passing through the points 0, 1, and 1b, just as the other graph did. The x-axis is still the asymptote. So the difference is this one is falling. So make sure you know that information, and we're going to go ahead and get started because this is very similar to yesterday. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and graph this. Y equals 1/2 x. I'm going to pick the same points, -1, 0, 1, and 2. So when I put a -1 in here, in order to make the exponent positive, we need to flip the fraction. So we're going to get 2. Plug 0 in, anything to the 0 power is 1. Plug 1 in, we get just 1/2. And we plug 2 in, we get 1/4. So let's go ahead and graph this. -1, +2, 0, 1, 1, 1/2, 2, 1/4. So take a look. And sometimes if you want to know how quickly it's approaching, maybe I throw in a -2. Plug that in, we get -2. We would end up having 1 to the -1 over 2 to the -2, or excuse me, 1 to the -2 over 2 to the -2. We want to flip that, so you end up with 4. So you can kind of just see how quickly the graph, or how fast it falls, I should say, not rises. There we go. Okay, now I want you to do the same thing over here, except we have a 1/3 function. I still would like you to plug in -1, 0, 1, and 2. Go ahead, pause the video, and give that a try. Okay, moving on, we're going to have a vertical stretch or shrink of the graph, just as we did before. So A is going to be our vertical stretch or shrink. This time our y-intercept is going to be at 0a rather than 0, 1, same as before. So let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make my chart. I'm going to do -2, -1, 0, 1. So when I plug -2 in, we get 2, we get 1/4 to the -2. We want to flip that. So we get 2 times 16. Look how huge this is, 32. So I'm way off my graph. So we're going to go ahead and put -1 in. So I end up with 2 times 4, which is 8. Plug 0 in, I get just 2 times 1. Plug 1 in, I get 1/2. Okay, so I can't plot the -2 because I'd be way off the graph. So -1, +8 is here, 0, 2, and then 1, 1/2. Very steep graph, very steep. Oops, sorry. There we go. Okay, I'm going to do the next one with you because this again is a unique situation like we had in yesterday's notes. So notice I have a -3 on the outside. We're going to go ahead and pick points to plug in. I'm going to just do -1, 0, and 1 this time. Okay, when I put -1 in, the fraction flips. So I have -3 times 5/2. So -15/2 is -7.5. Plug 0 in, so I get -3 times 1 is -3. Plug 1 in, so I get -6/5, which is -1.2 about. All right, plot this, -1 and -7.5. Way down here, 0, -3, 1, -1.2. Okay, so look at this graph. It's still going to approach the still going to approach the x-axis. Okay, but our graph is not falling when I look from left to right. So look at our note on the bottom. This is not an exponential decay function because a is equal to -3, which is less than 0. We go back up here to the very beginning. It says a must be greater than 0. The only difference between yesterday's and today is that our b is going to be between 0 and 1. It's going to be a positive fraction. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and talk about translations. We're going to do the same exact thing as yesterday. You should definitely notice a pattern. Okay, we have the same equation. Our H is our horizontal shift, and our K is our vertical shift. So we're going to go ahead and break this down, graph it, and then shift it. Okay? So step one in this problem, number one, step one is we are going to graph y equals 3 to the 1/2 x. I'm going to do that by picking points. I'm going to go ahead and put -1, 0, and 1. Okay, when I put -1, it flips my fraction, so I have 3 times 2, which is 6. When I put 0 in, this is gone, this becomes 1, so I have 3. When I put 1 in, I have 1/2, so 3 times 1/2 is 3/2, which is 1.5. Right? Okay. Go ahead, plot this. So I get -1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I get 0, 3, and 1, 1.5. Graph it so it's a dashed line because that's not our answer. Now we have to shift our graph. We're going to translate it. Okay, this is a +1, so we're going to end up going left 1. Oops. This is a -2, so it's going to go down 2. So every point that I plotted, we're going to go left 1, down 2. Left 1, down 2. Left 1, down 2. Now, instead of approaching the x-axis, it's going to approach y equals -2. This is the graph that I want to see. Not so bad, right? Okay, I want you to do the same thing over here. Step one, you're going to graph y equals 3 times 3/4 to the x. You're going to go ahead and pick values. On this one, when I did it, I did -1, 0, and 1, and then you're going to translate it. When you translate it, let's take a look at it together. This is a -5, so it's going to go right 5. It's always the opposite of the h. And it's a +4, so it's going to go up 4. So once you sketch your graph, every point that you plot, you're going to go right 5, up 4. Any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead right at the bottom of the paper, and I will see you tomorrow in class.